Hey everyone, welcome back to my cozy corner. It's your girl Jen, and if you're new here, welcome. I'm just a regular old college student at Cal State Dominguez, but if you're not new here, welcome back to the chaos. You guys, it's May 2nd, which means we're going to be talking about our April TBR that we read last month. Pew, 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 pew. Now, I'm not going to lie, guys. As you can see from the stack of books here, if you can see from the stack of books here, we have a lot of books to talk about and go through, and that's not even including the Kindle and Everand books that I read this month. So, starting this month off strong, quick little thing. I did read 11 books. I think I had like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on my TBR that I had gone through this month, completed, 5 out of 5 books that we did for our TBR. Yay, go us, whatever. But then, I still had like half the month to go because when I finished this last book here, I was like, dude, it's only April 15th. Like, what am I supposed to do with the rest of my time? So I went through all these rest of the books and I'm like, well, it's only April 20th. Like, what do I do with the rest of my time? I can't just do nothing. How am I supposed to procrastinate on my homework? And so I ended up picking up a couple more books from Kindle Unlimited and from Everand because I had a couple of, what do you call them? Like, not coupons, but like every month or so, Everand allows you to have like 3 books or audiobooks or ebooks or whatever the fuck you want to do. Oh, sorry, whatever the heck you want to do to pick out. And so I picked out three. No, I picked out. Yeah, I picked out 3 books. One of them was accidentally in a different language, and I was like, "Huh, that's cute." And so I just only ended up reading 2 books. But anyway, that being said, let's go ahead and dive right into our TBR that we had gone through. So first was our my what do you call it? I created a book club last month, and our book for the month was Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. And you guys, this is my first technical like romance book, and it's also my first Ali Hazelwood book. And so I was like kind of nervous going into it because a lot of people like this book, but me being who I am, I'm like, I want fairies and dragons and vampires and magical stuff and romance and fantasy. That's who I am. It's like my bread and butter. And so like reading a book that's in like a contemporary world, like basically like real life and stuff, I'm like, I'm kind of scared, but I'm not gonna lie, this is so cute. I was gushing and kicking my feet throughout this book. So we are following 2 people. I believe her name is Elsie and the other guy's name is Jack. And they just have the most wonderful little relationship ever. And it starts off, it is a miscommunication trope. It's kind of like she's like a faux dater, and she's also a theoretical physicist, and he's an experimental physicist. And I'm not really sure about like the physics world, but apparently the 2 physicist types don't get along. So I guess like theoretical physicists and experimental physicists don't get along because theoretical physicists are like, well, I want to crack the code first, and experimental physicists are kind of like, well, let's just like fuck around and find out. And so I guess that's like why they don't get along per se. But her Elsie and Jack's relationship is super cute. They are both well, actually no, I think he's already working for MIT, and she is she's like applying for a position there. And at the moment she's currently like fake dating his brother. And so when she goes to this interview, she's like, oh well, I'm just here, whatever. But also, why are you here talking to Jack? And he's like, well, I work here. And she's like, oh, all right, cool. So they have this interview, like very interview style, very chill, laid back, like dinner, if that makes sense. And so throughout this dinner, they're kind of having like this really awkward, like he's teasing her, he's trying to figure her out. And Jack doesn't know that she's like a physicist. She only knows him as or he only knows her as like a librarian or something. And Jack's brother, that's his girlfriend or whatever. So again, nobody knows that they're fake dating. But regardless, their whole like little dynamic is super cute. I'm not gonna say anything else besides that because I don't want to like spoil the book for anybody who hasn't read it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and write the back real quick, and then you guys can figure out if you want to read it. But I did read this 5 stars. This was super cute. I really loved this. It kind of like not opened my eyes, but it's like it definitely set the hype for like romance book. I was like, all right, guys, I see what you're what y'all are on. And honestly, chapter 19 chapter 19 got me. Like I was literally working out and I'm like, damn, I'm sweating. But like I'm not just sweating because I'm working out, I'm sweating because oh my god, it's hot. Like I'm not gonna lie, there's some spicy scenes in this book and I was eating it up breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But yeah, so the lives of sorry the many lives of theoretical physicist Elsie Hanaway has finally caught up to her. By day, she's an adjunct professor, meaning like she kind of works as needed, essentially, toiling away at the grading labs and teaching thermodynamics in the hopes of landing tenure. By other day, oh, Elsie makes up for her non-existent paycheck by offering her services as a fake girlfriend, tapping into her expertly honed people-pleasing skills to embody whichever version of herself the client needs. However, it's a pretty sweet gig. Honestly, it's a pretty sweet gig until her carefully constructed Elsie verse comes crashing down because Jack Smith, the annoyingly attractive and arrogant older brother of her favorite client, turns out to be the cold-hearted experimental physicist who ruined her mentor's career and undermines the reputation of all theorists everywhere. And he's the same Jack Smith who rules over the physics department at MIT, standing right between Elsie and her dream job. Elsie is prepared for an all-out war of scholarly sabotage, but those long penetrating looks, not having anything other than her true self, um, not having to be anything other than her true self when she's with him, while falling into an experimentalist orbit, finally tempt her to put her most guarded theories on love to practice. So it's really cute. I'm not gonna lie, it's really cute. I definitely gave it some 5 stars. It set me up for the month, and going into this next series, you guys, this series overall is probably a 4 star, but don't go into it thinking you're gonna have the most wonderful, fantastical, like fantasy type time. This is really just a good, goofy time between two people who love banter and have their happily ever after eventually, but they go through a lot, and it's uh okay, let's just go into it. So the first book we're going to be talking about is well, in the series rather, is Powerless. Powerless is a, like, basically if you threw the Hunger Games trilogy, the Hunger Games like premise into like a fantasy world, gave two groups of people powers and one group of people not. Like one group has powers, one people don't, and then ostracize the people that don't have powers, and then like threw them into the ring. If what is what I'm trying to say. So we're following Peyton. She is an ordinary, meaning she doesn't have any powers, and she accidentally saves the prince one day when she's walking down the street and robbed him. And then later on, an event happens, and she ends up saving him by accident. And now he's like, "Holy crap! This girl saved me. Now I want to get to know her better." But before he can even get to know her, the entire town is like, "You know what? We're gonna toss you into the ring. We really want you to go through these trials so that you can," because she lives in the slums. So we really want you to go through these trials to like bring glory to our little town. And she's like, "Hold on, wait a second, guys, I have a secret. The secret isn't ordinary." And if you forgot, ordinaries are outlawed and I can get my ass killed. So no, thank you very much. And guess what happens? She ends up going into the trials. So the prince that she saves is participating in these trials along with a bunch of other people, but he's supposed to be like training to be the enforcer. Like he's been training his entire life to be the enforcer of his kingdom and protect his brother once he becomes king. So these trials were like particularly specially made for him, so that when he goes through it, he has to like do a bunch of other stuff. But guess what? These rules that Kai is going through, the MMC, applies to everyone. So it's not just the special trials for him; it's special trials for everybody, which makes it worse because Peyton's like, "Bro, you can't give me a break. Like I'm gonna die out here." But anyway, first book, lots of banter. Don't go in here thinking you're gonna be learning like not Fourth Wing style, but like Throne of Glass level fantasy. Like this is not epic fantasy. This is literally like a good goofy time. You find out like a little bit of lore, but it's mostly just like banter and romance and flirting and stuff. But it's cute. It's really cute. It's good to read when you're ovulating if you're a female watching this. But our third book on the list, but the second book in the series, is a novella. It's like a 1.5. This is following her best friend. And there's a significant event that happens at the end of the first book, and you're basically like following. It's weird because book 1.5 is following Powerless tandemly with Powerless, but it's following it from a different character's point of view, if that makes sense. So again, there's a significant event at the end of the first book of Powerless that happens to the specific character. So you're going through this entire book knowing exactly what's going to happen. And it made me mad because, okay, look, going through this entire series, and then this characters in this book only were important enough to appear for a couple of seconds in the last book. So I feel like if you want to read this so that, this girl can have like a little happily ever after until something happens, sure. But let me just get into it. So she has a best friend. Peyton has a best friend. Her name is, what is her name? It starts like with an A. Adina. Adina ends up, seeing Peyton off. She's like gonna be her seamstress eventually and whatever. And she's like having a good goofy time. She's like enjoying her friend. She's like, "Yeah, go girl. I'm gonna make you all these dresses so you can look super pretty the night before a trial." But also, I kind of like met a guy, and now we're kind of talking, and it's super cute and whatever. And then at the end of this, something happens, but you see it from the guy's point of view that she met. And I won't lie, I probably shed a couple of tears, but not Throne of Glass level shed of tears. I'm not gonna lie, I've been thinking about Throne of Glass recently, and like every year for the past couple of years, I've been reading Throne of Glass through. and it's just, I don't know, I'll talk about it later at the end, but powerful. I gave it like a 3.5. It was really cute. It was goofy, but at the end of it, I was like, dude, we already saw this coming. I don't know why. I was like hoping that the guy that was in this, because I felt like, sorry, I'm going all over this place with this series. It's really annoying. I felt like they were trying to set this guy up that appears in this book for a future book. He doesn't appear in the second book, so I'm like, okay, maybe he appears in the third book. He does for 2 seconds, and we figure that out later, and we're like, wait, he what? Huh? And he just doesn't appear for the rest of the book, and so I felt like it was kind of meaningless. This is giving like a children's story, like, okay, I told my daughter this, and one night the story's ended, and then that's it. Like, it didn't really give any meaning to her day, is what I'm trying to say. So read this for a good goofy time, cry a little bit at the end, and move on with your life. So yeah, 3.5 stars for that. 3.5 stars for that one. Next, we're going to be going into Reckless. This, oh, you kind of have to go into this series thinking this is not going to be high fantasy. This has no plot. This is mostly just a good goofy time with like romance and flirting and banter and stuff like that. This is a road trip book. This is a book about a road trip through the desert, back and forth. So at the end of the first book, something happens, as we all know, but like something else happens and something else happens. And because I don't want to spoil it, let's just say that Peyton's now on the run, and Kai, being the enforcer, and Kit, his brother, being like the king now or whatever, he's like, I would need you to hunt her down and bring her to me. And he's like, all right, on it, boss. And so Kai goes to the desert to find Peyton, and Peyton's, we're following those two different point of views. And Peyton's going through her own little stuff. She ends up having like a little Selena moment where Selena ends up losing her shit one day and decides to fight in the pits. So a similar situation happens where Peyton is in this town, like trying to be on the low, but also trying to get some money and like start over. And she ends up fighting through the pits. And while it's like, I don't know, I just felt like it was copy and paste. But anyway, that's not the point. So Kai ends up following her, and they end up like, he's following her around. A bunch of stuff happens where it's like a not tug of war, but like back and forth, where it's like, oh my god, you caught me, and now I'm running away again. But oh no, you caught up to me again. And him being like, I will always find you. I'll like stalk to the end of the earth, and whatever the heck. But then she's like, well, you still are gonna bring me to your brother and whatever. Like, I'm gonna be killed and whatever. So I'm like, I'm scared. So I'm trying not to get caught. So at the end of it, she's caught, she's brought back to the castle or whatever, and something happens, and then now we're going to be brought into book 3. So, again, this one was like, it's 4 stars if you think of it as a cute road trip full of like banter and I'm gonna kill you raw, but like not really. Don't go into this entire series thinking there's gonna be any actual plot. Everything is incredibly predictable, and yeah. Yeah, this entire series overall, 4 stars. Would I read it again? Probably in the next 6 years or so, but it's alright. It's alright, you know what I'm saying? But now it's time for my least favorite book, Fearless. The entire time reading this book, I had to keep telling myself, you're not reading this book for the plot, baby girl. You're reading this for the plot, for the tea in that plot. This book is incredibly predictable. There's an event that happens on the end of the second book, and I was trying to see like what the author was going to do with that. I'm like, of all things you could have done, why did you have to go there? And so in this last book, we're following this entire like plot twist of like, oh my gosh, this is now going to happen. And we're also following a third character's point of view who died like a million years ago. And we're like, what sort of substance do you add? He's like sprinkling some incredibly predictable little salts to season this book. And it was incredibly predictable. So now Peyton and Kai, they still haven't even had a couple of kisses. They've probably kissed like once per book, and it's been like a solid peck on the cheek and then bye, basically. Not peck on the cheek, but like there's no makeout section. There's no what do you call it? There's no like spicy scenes, but this is YA, but it's like also like, well, what the heck? There is a sibling trope well, I mean, Kai and Kit are siblings, that's not the point. But like there's a sibling trope in this that kind of gave me the ick. If you've read Cassandra Clare's City of Bones book, the Mortal Instruments book, like the first few books until City of Glass, it's a bit cringy because 2 characters end up finding out in the first book that they might be siblings, and they go through the entire next 2 books believing that they are siblings, and then something else happens and they're no longer siblings. Something similar happens in this book where 2 people are siblings and 2 people are supposed to be together, and I'm like, gross, it's disgusting, I don't want to hear about that. And I'm like, what is her name? Lauren Roberts. I'm like, how are you going to figure this out? How are you not figure this out, but like, how are you going to tell us how to figure this out? How are you going to give us some solace? Because we all know who Peyton is going to end up with at the end. Like, it's been like the two main characters in the book are Peyton and Kai. We know these two are going to be together, but like, you just threw this in our faces. So what are you going to do to fix it? Because if Peyton and Kai, and then Kai and Kit, why is what? So anyway, yeah. So the entire, like, to fix it, I saw it from a mile away. The only like not plot twist, but the only what do you call it? Thing that left me on the edge of my seat was the scene in the last 100 pages of the book, because we still have 100 pages left of this almost 600-page book, and we're like, wait, but they're still not together. Things are still not okay. We're still flirting. We're still like back and forth between the I love you, but we can't be together, and blah 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 blah. And you just yeah, blah, 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 blah. So what are you gonna do? And so she figures it out and she tells us, and so she's just like, well, I guess this is just what's gonna happen. I'm being super vague about this. All of the scenes are playing in my head right now of what happens, and I'm really trying not to spoil anything because this is a relatively new book. Um, but all you have to know is that Kai and Peyton ended up together at the very end, because of course they're the main two characters, and we knew this from the entire beginning. So it's like Peeta and Katniss, but give them power, or give one of them powers and make the other one ordinary. I want to say the only substance to this entire book was reading about the like what happened, like why these people have power, or why these people have powers, like where the so essentially there was this thing called the plague from like a bunch of years ago, where this plague came out and wiped out a bunch of people, and the people that survived now have like different colored hair, but they also have like powers. And so people that don't have powers are called ordinaries, which is where Peyton comes in. But the king was super crazed about it, and he was like, yeah, I don't feel comfy with that, so you guys are gonna have to die because I want to build an elite society. But finding out where the plague came from and how it spread and what it could evolve into, that was super interesting from a scientific perspective. But we could have done without that entire thing, because again, this entire book is not for plot. It's for the good goofy vibes and banter and flirting and, yearning and, what do you call it, anguish that we go through. But anyway, yeah. Entire series overall 4 stars. The last book, 3.75. It wasn't the worst book I've ever read, but I was getting kind of annoyed by the end of it. And I'm a pretty decent rater, meaning I give books probably a higher rating that they deserve. But since reading this, I have seen a bunch of things on booktube and bookstagram of being like, oh, I don't like, very controversial takes on this book, because a lot of people, you either like it or you hate it, is what I'm trying to say. So it's April 15th now, and I'm tired, and I've read my entire TBR, and I still have 15 days left of the month. So what did I pick up? I picked up Legends and Lattes. This was such a cute, cozy book. Like, it's literally about an orc who went through her entire life being a mercenary and an adventurer, and then she settles down and opens a coffee shop. Like, that's literally the entirety of this book. You go through her like building this coffee shop for the first like 100 pages. This is only like a 275-page book. So like, this is like the entire first like quarter or a third of the book, she's building her coffee shop. Then she opens it. She hires a couple of people, and it's just really cute. It's super cozy. Like, there's a little bit of plot in this, but it's literally just like the entire plot is opening a coffee shop and hiring people, and like the little like working in food and like having like those relationships with your employees. And then it's just such a good goofy time. I gave this like a 4.5 stars. This was so cute. Definitely something I needed after this clusterfuck that I have under me, but definitely really cute. I'm not gonna lie, the Powerless trilogy definitely almost put me into a reading slump. This was exactly the chaser that I needed to get out of that and not even touch the slump that I was about to get into. But after that, I decided to pick up a book that I was kind of scared to read about, because look at this man, you guys. We don't even know who this man is until later on throughout the book, and I'm not gonna lie, the freaking plot twist got me, and I was crying. I was crying throughout the rest of the 75 pages, because you know exactly how it's gonna end, and the last 75 pages are just telling you how it's gonna end very slowly. It's like sliding a knife across your throat in the most slowest, painfully way possible. We're following a girl, obviously. What is her name again? Um, yeah, what is her name? That's a good fucking question. Fiona? No. Claire? No. 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 Stop. 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 Aiden? No. Okay, I'm gonna find this out later and pop this up here somewhere. But we're following a girl whose husband recently passed away, and she obviously not inherited their house, but like she's living in their house, and I guess she's like a writer or something. And her house is kind of haunted, and she's like, oh, okay, that's kind of crazy. Let me just like, call the electrician because my light bulbs keep breaking, or in my power keeps going out or whatever. So she hires an electrician. He's like, well, your house is actually really old. We're gonna need some backup, but your lights appear to be fine. In comes, I think his name is Aiden. Yeah, in comes Aiden. He is this grumpy guy who hates life, hates everyone. I guess he was like a actually no, that's a spoiler. I'm not gonna go into that, but like he's just a guy. And her husband recently died, and she's like, oh my gosh, he's hot as hell. And she's trying to, in her mind, like low-key jumping his bones. But he doesn't end up fixing anything throughout the entirety of the book. Like she just kind of goes over to his house. They have the most glorious, amazing sex, and then she feels bad afterwards because she's like, dude, was I a good wife? Why did this sex hit so good? You know what I'm saying? But at the end of it, you see this plot twist happen, and you're just a mess by the end of it. I won't lie. I was reading this on my Kindle because it is on Kindle Unlimited. Highly recommend, especially if you're trying to like dip your toes into dark romance. This is like slightly paranormal romance, but not really. But she keeps getting these letters, and he's from this random guy, and he's like, oh hey, I know you. And on the back of it, the first letter says, I'll wait forever if I have to. And she's like, who is this guy? Who is Dante? What do you mean? And she ends up sending like a letter back saying like, what are you waiting for then? And his next letter is you. And I'm like, oh gosh, okay, cool. So we're following three different men. Our first man died. Our second man, we're kind of fucking, and our third man, we don't even know who he is. He just keeps sending us letters from prison. Like, what the heck's going on? And so at the end of this book, you find out what really happened, and it's just like, I'm glad that they had their happy ending, but like, why did that hurt so much? Why did definitely read the trigger warnings when you're going into this. It's not super crazy, but it does bring up domestic violence and essay and murder and stuff. So if you're a little triggered to any of that, definitely read that before going in and keep that in mind. But you're not going to see it or understand it until the last 75 pages of the book, because something happens and you're like, what? You're left on the edge of your seat and you just have to keep going. Like, this book does tie up pretty nicely. The last few pages were kind of funny because like somebody definitely got revenge and somebody got revenged. So it was kind of funny. But after Pen Pal, I was like, all right, I still have a week left. So what do I do? I pick up All Roads Lead Here, and I listen to this on Everand because it is a cute, goofy time. And I originally wasn't planning on reading honestly, any of these books. But this book I didn't even have until like a couple weeks ago. My little baby girl, oh my girlfriend, okay, why am I acting all weird? She's a member of my book club, and I ended up getting two of my members the entire Throne of Glass series. And so when I traded over the gift, my one of my members of the book club were like, hey, I actually got you something. And I was like, what do you mean you got me something? You didn't have to get me anything. What the heck? And she got me All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata. This is such a good goofy time. Oh my gosh. As somebody who loves hiking, I had an amazing time with this book. We're following obviously two people. This girl just recently like broke up with her husband and like divorced him and stuff. And so she ends up deciding to go to this small town to start over. This small town does have significance in her life. I believe she grew up there and then moved somewhere else, but then came back. And she mostly came back here to hike because her mom died like a couple, I don't know how many years ago, but her mom did end up passing away. And what she wanted to do was she wanted to go out to all of her old like hiking spots and hike them all, just to like have some nostalgia feeling and connect with her mom. And she ends up renting out this garage apartment, and unbeknownst to her, the person that she was renting that no the person that she was renting to, the person that was renting out the space like didn't actually rent out the space. It was his son. And so when she moves in, she just like hears thump 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 up the stairs, and she's like, what's going on? What? And so she like, I think she grabs her pepper spray or something like that, and this guy, this random big behemoth of a man, I guess apparently according to the audio of this book, comes barreling through the door, and he's like, who are you? With like the deepest voice I've ever heard. And I'm like, oh. Hey, what's up? And he's like, who are you? And she's like, I'm renting out this space, my name is so and so. And he's like, no, you need to leave right now. And she's like, wait, what? I already paid for this space. What do you mean? Like, oh, her name is Aurora, so we're just gonna call her Aurora. And the second guy's name is Tobias. But we call him Rhodes throughout the entire book. But Rhodes just doesn't understand what's going on. And so his son comes up and he's like, hey dad, I know that you're leaving in a couple weeks, but I actually rented out the space because I wanted to buy a guitar. sorry, but she did already give me the money, and it's a lot of money, and I think it'd be good for us, you know, yay, vibes. And he gets really upset, but he ends up letting her stay, and they form the most cutest little like the relationship ever. It is like in a more adult like not adult romance, but like what do you call it? He's an older guy. He's like, I mean, as you can see from the title of this book, he's got, or the cover page rather, he's got like gray hair, and she's probably, I think he's like 35, 37. I think it's like a 7-year age difference, but like they're grown adults. They're like well into their 30s. But they end up having the most adorable little romance ever, and it is single dad. It is like a small town. It's just a really good goofy time, and she ends up going hiking, and she's just like, oh, la di da, and she ends up like falling because she's super clumsy, and he ends up going to save her, and I'm just like kicking my feet because I'm like, this is so cute. Now there is like a little third act conflict, as there is with every book, but like it is a miscommunication trope, but it's funny, it's hilarious. She's like, something happens, and then like, you know, they're fighting and whatever, and so she decides to like be like, fuck, hey, if you're not gonna answer me, then I'm gonna go hang out with my homegirls, and we're gonna have a little girls night and sleep over. So she packs a little overnight bag, not her entire stuff, she packs an overnight bag and goes to her friend's house, and not even like halfway into the sleepover, he's like banging on the door, and they're like, what the heck's going on? Him and his son are like breathing heavily. It looks like they ran there from his house, and they're like, you're not going anywhere. We're going to talk about this and figure it out. We do not leave our problems behind, or whatever the heck. We face them together. You and me are together. And she's like, huh? I literally just wanted to have a little girl's day. Like, what you mean? I wasn't planning on leaving. Like, it's so funny. Rhodes and his son thought she was leaving them because like they thought she was running away after their fight, and they thought that like she was giving up on them. And she's like, nah, dude, I literally just wanted to have a like girls like night at my friend's house, and I'm so sorry. Like, we'll get through this together, and like we'll talk about it later. But like I understand that you were mad at me, and I just kind of wanted to go blow off some steam and have a girls day at my friend's house. And they were like, oh, all right, we'll figure it out. We'll hang out, but like, you know, whatever the heck. But it was just really cute. It was super cute. I loved it. It's kind of both Mariana Zapata and Ali Hazelwood, and now Emily Henry, which we'll talk about in a second. But like, they're definitely opening up my eyes to like cutesy romance and blah 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 blah. Like, I'm just having a great old time. And as somebody who reads more dark fantasy and dark fiction, or just fantasy in general, fantasy romance or whatever, like these are so out of my comfort zone. But I'm having the best time ever. But the last couple of books, the last few books actually, I'm kind of getting tired because this is a long video already, but I'm just yapping this entire time because I'm having the best time ever talking about these books. This month was absolutely amazing, and I'm so excited to get into next month's series because it's more of a like, this is Powerless trilogy with the other book and 4-book series, whatever. It's more like not dark fantasy, but it's like more magic and stuff, and more like, I don't know how to describe it, but I'm gonna be going into the Shadow and Bone trilogy this month, and I'm really excited to do it because it's more adventure focused, and this is more like cute and in love and focus and, you know, plot and lack of what you know what I'm saying. But anyway, yeah, more epic, more like adventure fantasy compared to like romantasy and, you know, whatever the heck. Anyway, yeah. Being besides the point, I then had still like a week and a half left of the month, and so I picked up the Cat and Mouse Duet. We have Haunting and Hunting Adeline, and I've heard from so many people that this is a dark book. This is not like your regular dark fantasy. This is not like your regular dark romance. I've read the Souls trilogy, and the stuff that's talked about in this book does not even compare to the stuff that I've read before. I'm not gonna lie. Read the trigger warnings going in. Prepare yourself. Buckle up. Get your tissues nearby. Get some cookies, get your chocolate, get your cozy bunnies and your slippers and your stuff that you need to comfort you, because this is a book that you will take you by the throat, cut your head off, and like, you know, torture it or something. This has a lot to do with SA. This book is about a stalker who stalks this like not up and coming, she's pretty famous at this point. Stalks this writer who's like super famous, and at first she's just like, oh, that's kind of creepy, I have a stalker, but also I'm gonna move on with my day. And, you know, obviously the stalker is the love interest, but what is her name again? You know what, I'll just like put it up here, like the names of the two characters in the book. But we're following Zaid is his name, and we're following another person, Addie. There you go, Addie. Following Zaid and Addie, and he ends up stalking her. In the first meeting that they have, like he low-key do rape. Not gonna lie, he do the R word. He F's her with the gun. She gets into it. She gets off on it, but it's non-consensual. There's a lot of non-consensual scenes until like the last half of the book. And even then, it's like, what? Huh? In real life, this would never happen. Like, she would be dead in a ditch somewhere. And like throughout the book, Addie is like very aware of this. She's like, this is not no ordinary world. I'm in a world where stalking is okay, and I'm kind of into it. But the entire plot is just him stalking her and like forcing her to fall in love with him, and her pushing him away and saying, no, ew, gross, I don't want you to go away. But at the end of it, they're fine. Not they're fine. They're not fine at all. They're not fine like in the slightest. But it's fine, because guess what? He's not just a stalker. He doesn't just kill people that she sleeps with and do all these morally black things. He's also like the head of this organization that kills rapists and saves a bunch of women and children. Yay. He's okay. It's not, no. This book put me in a chokehold, and I'm still not coming out of it. I'm still recovering. I'm still recovering for sure. This book is very graphic, and as an adult, I was like, I just, wow, I was what can I even say about this book? An event happens at the end of this first book, the Haunting Adeline, that leads up for the next book. I was expecting, he's just gonna save her and everything's gonna be great. No, the entire half of the second book is very graphic. It's very traumatizing. It's very it's very triggering. The trigger warnings that I read on the first couple of pages were like essay and sorry, my brain is cutting off, but very graphic rape, very graphic gang rape, torture, trafficking, and a bunch of other stuff. So essentially, Addie was kidnapped at the end of the first book, and in the second book, you're just spending the entire time experiencing what she's going through as she's being kidnapped, and she's being like brainwashed and tortured and groomed, and eventually she does get out, and eventually Zayd does save her, but like she's the entire last half of the book, she's spending that like trying to recover. Like, she's a shell of a person. She's so timid and scared and just doesn't want to talk to anybody. And Zayd, being the person that he is, he's trying to give her space, and she's just like, dude, like, I don't even know if I can ever have sex again. And they go through that, and they're great at the end of it, but it's still like, what the holy crap, this book. Anyway, yeah, definitely 5 stars. Definitely 5 stars. But like, I'm still processing. I was eating it up, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like, I finished both books in like 4 days. And they're well over 1,200 pages, but yeah. Interestingly, my last book of April, and I'm just gonna wrap this up really quickly, hopefully, because this is a very long video. I'm so sorry. The last book of April was Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. It is my first Emily Henry book. It is also a book that just came out this month, and I won't lie, it was super cute. Not like the best book that I've ever read, but I give it a solid like 3.75, like on the good side of the scale. 3.75 stars. It's about 2 people who are journalists, and it kind of gave 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Sorry, I don't know why that was so hard to say. 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And in that book, you're following a journalist who is doing an interview / trying to write a book about, or memoir or something like that, about this woman who's very famous and had like 7 husbands and how that went. In this book, you're following 2 journalists who are fighting over the position to get the scoop and write a story on this, or write a memoir on this old lady's family's past. And throughout the entire book, you're going through like her life, but you're also, of course, going to have that side plot of romance. The romance it was very insta love. Why is my handle? Yeah. Anyway, yeah, sorry. It is very insta love. It's very cute. It's very it's a bit it's not graphic at all. It's very cute, but it's not like, out of the 3 books that I read this month, it's probably on the bottom of the list, but it wasn't bad by any means. But some stuff happens, some plot twist happens, and we end up finding more about who this male character is and like what his backstory is. We're following the girl, I forget her name, but I'll put it up here, and she's like not really popular, and he's just like a well-renowned journalist or something like that. And while they're fighting over this position, the entire time he's like, you're not going to get this position, and this is really going to suck, because then this whole like relationship that we're building is just going to like down what do you call it, it's going to explode and like blow up in our faces, and you're going to leave me, break my heart. And she's like, first of all, you're cocky as fuck. Second of all, what makes you think you're going to get the position? Like, I could get this position myself. And third of all, no, because I can hold a professional level of stuff and professionalism, and I'm not gonna let like my personal life get in the way of my work life. But anyway, it is a good goofy time. It's set in, I think, Georgia, and these two people are fight. Like I said, they're trying to get the position, and you're finding out about this old lady's past and her family's past, and she ends up starting from the very beginning, like when her family's name like blew up, and like starting from the very beginning, and then eventually she gets to her part, and then eventually she like she finishes the story, and then um the girl ends up finding out some plot twist, and she's like, wait, this doesn't make sense. And the lady's reminding her like, hey, you signed an NDA, you can't say anything about it. But then she finds out why she had to sign an NDA, and then she's like, okay, now I can't even tell this person like what's going on, but also like he deserves to find out what's going on. So eventually, like, I do feel like the last 30 pages or so were kind of like spitfire rapidly wrapped up, and that was kind of annoying, but it's overall a 3.75 book. It was fine. Overall, it was fine. It was cute. I was reading it on my Everand app, and it was like 5 hours of just fine. But yeah, anyways, that is the 11 books that I read this month. I am losing my voice. I am tired, but I did have a great month. I'm really excited for this next coming month, but I'll talk about my May TBR next week. But overall, this was probably the best reading month that I've had all year, even though I had 4 books out of those 11 that were kind of like, what the actual heck? But if you're ever thinking about reading any of these books, definitely keep in mind the trigger warnings. Some of these books are just for a good goofy time. Some of these books are just like little, cozy fantasy or whatever. And some of these books are just the most adorable romance you've ever read in your life. But that is going to be it for this video, guys. I'm sorry for like the abrupt end. I just didn't really know how to end this video. But if you like this video, go ahead and like it. If you have any questions, go ahead and reach out to me about any of the books. Definitely read some of these books. And if you have, go ahead and link them down below. Not link them down below, but like go ahead and talk about them in the comments section if you like. Go ahead and tell me what your favorite book on the list was. And definitely hit that subscribe button so you never miss when I upload a new video. I'm losing my voice here, guys, but also like the video because why not? So go ahead, do the whole thing. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell and all that stuff. And I'll see you guys next week for a brand new video. Bye.